Welcome to this week's WTOL 11 Weather Impact. This week we have a very specific topic for you as tons of kids go back to school across the country. We're talking about cooling schools in a hotter climate throughout the U.S. And this has been an issue, or at least a rising issue, where we'll cover as we go throughout this week. So when we talk about cooling schools, the demand for cooling schools has really risen throughout Toledo and across the country since 1970. We're talking about 53%. And when we talk about cooling degree days, it's pretty much the sum of a daily average temperature that's above 65 degrees. So we've seen about a 53% increase with not only cooling demand, but also cooling degree days when it comes to schools. Now, as we break this map down for you, those back to school demand cooling, of course, we see some of those darker red dots. That's the more higher percentage of cooling degree days. When you see that 50% to 60%, that's when you see those higher, darker reds out there. And Toledo is in fact included in that darker red, where we're about 50 to 60% chance with that cooling demand throughout the country. Now, when we talk about hot weather sports, this has been a thing that we talk about as well. When you talk about schools, you also have to talk about those sports within school and academics and athletics. So when you talk about this, hydrate. That's the biggest thing you could do as those school sports start up, and also in PE as well. And we talk about hydrate after, before, and during those exercises. And also wear light clothes if you can as well. I know with football practice, you have the pads, the helmet, but try to wear as much light clothes as you possibly can under those pads and helmets as you go throughout this summer and fall. And also, if you do need to work out or anything like that, those practices, highly recommend having those throughout the early morning and late evening hours as the best times, as the coolest times of the day as you go throughout the summer and fall months. And also, know at least those signs of heat-related illnesses. So we talk about this all the time. It's always key to know those signs and to ask for help, whether it's your coach, your PE coach or anything. Ask for help if you need to. So with this, of course, we will be breaking down more and more as we go throughout the next couple of minutes. We have a very special guest for you, a climate scientist from the University of Arizona that is breaking down the importance of not only cooling schools, but also those athletes. Check it out.
While we used to just worry about, hey, did we get the kids' snow boots out in the winter? Now it's a problem of there is no protection that parents can send to school with the kids from heat, right? It has to be built into the school, either the air conditioning potential or the insulating properties of the school. And those are, unfortunately, expensive.
And we would like to thank Dr. Russell for doing this for us and just explaining how important that is with cooling demand and cooling those schools and keeping those students safe throughout those school years with those summer months, and those summer months getting even longer out there. Now, when we talk about heat-related deaths, this has been a really, really interesting topic. When we talk about heat-related deaths, it is the leading cause of death as far as all weather events. We're talking more than tornadoes, hurricanes, all combined. Heat-related deaths are one of the more common and higher deaths. When we talk about this map for you, since 2016, we've seen a slow climb, but eventually, we talk about 2020, we have seen a drastic increase in heat-related deaths over the years. And this last year, we saw a record high of 23,000 heat-related deaths this year, which is an all-time record. So it is going to be very key to keep our people safe across the U.S. and across the globe as global warming continues to impact our area. Now, we talked about all across the country, and you did hear from Dr. Russell about Tucson, Arizona, and Texas. Well, they are in a heat wave this week, and they got some extreme heat across the country. And keep in mind, school is just getting active. So as we go throughout this past week, we saw temperatures into the triple digits in some spots like Lubbock, Amarillo. You see out in Phoenix and Las Vegas, triple-digit temperatures. And that's simply just not doable for students and athletes that do have those afternoon practices out there. But as you go throughout Thursday, same case. This has been a heat wave that's been going on this whole past week. As you look at it, triple-digit temperatures again. These are not feel-like temperatures. These are actual temperatures that are being experienced across the southern part of the United States. Now, Friday, I'm going to stop this time right here because football season is active right now. We know right around 7 p.m., 6 p.m., those football games start up. And we're talking temperatures across the Southwest 100 degrees out there just around kickoff for Friday night. So we're talking some extreme weather for these athletes that are going to be outside during these hot times. So that's one of the things we talk about is athletes and hot weather. So you always want to hydrate and keep those athletes safe with that dangerously hot weather as we go throughout at least this past week and also into next week. Right back here at home, though, we are still going to see above average temperatures. So as we go throughout the next week, or at least the next couple of weeks, we'll see above average temperatures. So those athletes definitely going to need to stay hydrated across the tri-state area and across Northwest Ohio and into Southeast Michigan, as we'll see warmer conditions and hotter conditions heading towards next week. Looking at that temperature trend, we're talking 90s on the way for us as we go throughout next Monday and Tuesday, even Wednesday. And it is definitely going to be hotter out there for us. This past week, we saw temperatures even to the mid 70s. Not going to be the case next week, as we'll see temperatures back with that summer heat. Now, when we talk about that cooling demand in schools, well, that lack of at least student learning will be impacted if there's not air conditioning or if those schools aren't cooled properly, which can cause some also health impacts and health issues for students with asthma and breathing issues when it comes to that hot weather, because it's simply not doable to at least have a good learning experience when it is hot in those classrooms. And of course, if you do want to at least have those higher cooling areas where you won't have to worry about those cooling issues in schools, it's going to be really impacted with higher operation costs as well. As our inflation gets higher and higher, it is going to cost more for these schools and districts to keep up with the demand of cooling as we go throughout the next several years due to global warming. But there is, of course, issues and solutions to this as well when it comes to those global emissions that we could work through over the next year or two and even the years following that could reduce that global emissions. This has been this week's WTOL 11 Weather Impact. We'll have more and more topics as we go throughout the next several weeks. But for now, I'm Meteorologist Matt Willoughby. Thanks for watching this week's WTOL 11 Weather Impact.